A deaf CEO sat alone in an elegant restaurant, watching the woman across from him stand up, force an awkward smile, and walk away before the meal even arrived. She had discovered that he could not hear a single word she was saying, and in that brief moment, everything she imagined about love, success, and perfection shattered into silent judgment. Every eye in the restaurant drifted toward him, not with sympathy, but with curiosity. Yet before he could gather enough strength to leave, two little twin girls quietly approached his table, smiled with innocent confidence, and signed, "Can we join you?" That single moment changed not only his evening, but every broken piece of his heart. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can change lives and that everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Humanity Tales for more emotional stories that remind us what truly matters. Ethan Carter had spent his entire life proving that silence was never weakness. He had lost his hearing completely at the age of 4 after a severe illness that doctors could not stop in time. While other children learned songs and playground chants, Ethan learned facial expressions, body language, and the graceful language of hands. His parents refused to let pity become part of his identity. His mother spent years mastering sign language so their home would always feel full of conversation, while his father taught him that respect was earned through integrity rather than excuses. They constantly reminded him that people might underestimate him, but he should never underestimate himself. School was never easy. Classmates often laughed when teachers struggled to communicate with him. Some children exaggerated their lip movements as a cruel joke, while others simply ignored him because speaking with him required patience. Ethan returned home carrying invisible scars every afternoon, but he also carried determination. Books became his closest companions, and technology became the bridge connecting him to a world that often forgot people like him existed. By the time he entered university, he had developed innovative software designed to improve workplace communication between deaf and hearing employees. Investors initially dismissed the idea, believing the market was too small, but Ethan believed inclusion was never a niche concept. Years later, that small idea evolved into one of the fastest-growing communication technology companies in the country, making him one of the youngest CEOs in the industry. Despite his extraordinary success, loneliness remained the one challenge money could never solve. Employees admired him, shareholders respected him, and the media celebrated his achievements, but once business meetings ended and cameras disappeared, silence returned to his luxurious apartment. Friends convinced him to try a blind date arranged through a mutual acquaintance. They insisted the woman was intelligent, compassionate, and open-minded. Ethan hesitated, knowing that revealing his deafness often changed people's attitudes before they truly knew him. Still, hope quietly defeated fear. He arrived early at the restaurant wearing a tailored navy suit, carrying the confidence of a businessman but the nervousness of a man longing to be accepted. The evening began pleasantly as they exchanged smiles and simple written messages on a tablet. But when she realized he relied entirely on sign language and text to communicate, disappointment slowly appeared across her face. She politely excused herself, claiming an emergency, though her expression revealed the truth far more clearly than any spoken explanation could have. Ethan watched her disappear through the restaurant doors while pretending not to notice the uncomfortable glances surrounding him. Years of success suddenly felt meaningless beside one moment of rejection. Just as he prepared to leave, two identical 8-year-old girls walked toward him with shy excitement. Their small hands moved confidently through sign language as they asked if they could sit beside him because they had seen him signing and wanted to practice. Ethan looked up in surprise and noticed a woman standing several feet away, smiling apologetically while encouraging the girls. She was their mother, Grace, a pediatric speech therapist who had spent years working with deaf and hard-of-hearing children. Her daughters, Lily and Lucy, had grown up learning sign language simply because they believed everyone deserved to be understood. The twins eagerly shared stories through cheerful signs, laughing with expressive faces and playful gestures. Ethan found himself smiling more than he had in months. Grace eventually joined them, and instead of asking uncomfortable questions about his disability, she asked about his passions, his childhood, and the company he had built. She never treated sign language like a burden. Instead, she communicated with calm patience and genuine warmth. For the first time in years, Ethan felt someone was listening to the person behind his silence. Over the following months, their paths crossed again and again. The twins insisted Ethan attend their school performances, charity events, and weekend picnics. They nicknamed him the silent superhero because he designed technology that helped thousands of people communicate. Grace admired his kindness far more than his wealth, especially after discovering he secretly funded scholarships for deaf students and donated communication devices to families unable to afford them. Ethan, meanwhile, admired how Grace taught her daughters empathy through everyday actions instead of impressive speeches. Their growing friendship slowly replaced the loneliness both had quietly carried for years. Life, however, rarely changes without testing new happiness. Ethan's company faced an aggressive corporate takeover attempt led by competitors who believed his disability made him vulnerable during high-pressure negotiations. Rumors spread online questioning whether a deaf CEO could continue leading a global technology company. Investors grew nervous, and journalists eagerly searched for signs of weakness. The pressure became overwhelming, yet Ethan refused to respond with anger. Instead, he organized the largest accessibility conference the company had ever hosted, demonstrating innovative communication technologies developed by deaf engineers, designers, and programmers working across his organization. The event reminded the world that leadership was measured by vision rather than hearing. Grace and the twins stood proudly in the audience that day. Watching hundreds of employees communicate seamlessly through sign language, captioning systems, and innovative software filled Grace with tears. She realized Ethan had transformed personal pain into opportunities for countless others. The conference became international news, inspiring companies worldwide to improve workplace accessibility. Investors regained confidence, and the attempted takeover quietly collapsed under public admiration for Ethan's integrity and leadership. As months passed, Ethan became more than a family friend. The twins rushed into his arms whenever they saw him, filling his once empty weekends with laughter, homemade drawings, and spontaneous adventures. Grace gradually recognized that the silence she once thought might create distance had instead created deeper understanding. Without spoken words rushing between them, every expression, every smile, every touch of encouragement carried extraordinary meaning. Love grew naturally, not through dramatic declarations, but through consistent kindness shared over ordinary days. One beautiful autumn afternoon, Ethan returned to the same restaurant where he had once been abandoned. This time, the table was surrounded by Grace, Lily, and Lucy. The manager remembered him immediately and quietly thanked him for inspiring the staff to learn basic sign language after witnessing what had happened months earlier. Several waiters greeted Ethan using simple signs they had practiced together. What had once been the scene of heartbreak had become a place of healing, proving that compassion often grows where pain once lived. Just before dessert arrived, the twins reached across the table, took Ethan's hands, and signed something that made everyone watching wipe away tears. They asked if he would become their forever family because, in their hearts, he had already become their father. Ethan could not hear applause echoing across the restaurant as nearby guests recognized the emotional moment, but he saw smiling faces, joyful tears, and hands raised in silent applause. For a man who had spent years believing silence isolated him from the world, that beautiful moment revealed the opposite. Silence had led him directly toward the people who loved him most. If this story touched your heart, please write in the comments. Kindness speaks louder than words. We'd love to read every message. As Ethan looked around the restaurant, he realized the blind date that once felt like the greatest humiliation of his life had actually become the doorway to his greatest blessing. Rejection had protected him from a future built on appearances and guided him toward a family built on acceptance, compassion, and unconditional love. Sometimes the people who walk away make room for the ones who were always meant to stay. And sometimes the loudest expression of love is spoken without making a single sound. If this story inspired you, please like, comment, share this video with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Humanity Tales. Your support helps us continue sharing heartfelt stories that remind the world kindness is still alive, one beautiful act at a time.